Welcome to the part 2 of the series on Ayurvedic examination and methods of diagnosis. So, this section 2 deals with Rogi Pariksha. In the end of part 1, we have analyzed the scheme of diagnostic workup in case of a clinical encounter with the patient. So, first, we are supposed to do the Rogi Roga Pariksha. Then we enlist the Lakshanas or whatever signs and symptoms that are available in the patient. Then we try to identify the predominance or the predominant doshas that are available in based on the symptoms in the patient. Then we will analyze the dushya or dhadus that are involved. Then we will get an idea about the roga marga and the srodhas that are involved. We'll then try to formulate a samprapti, and we will make a probable diagnosis. And next is we will classify the disease into typical avasthas like Navina, Purana, Sama, Nirama, etc. And then we may plan the treatment. So this is the scheme of diagnostic workup. This we have already seen in the end part of the section 1. So in this section I am going to deal about Rogi Pariksha. So I would like to warn that Rogi Pariksha and Roga Pariksha are usually done in a clinical setup simultaneously, and they are not separate entities. So here we are discussing these two sections separately only for the ease of understanding. And whenever we do this in a patient, we are supposed to do it simultaneously, or we automatically will do it simultaneously. So if we go through the classical textbooks of Ayurveda, we get lot of pariksha vidhis or methods of examination of a patient. So we know that there are Trivida Pariksha, which includes Darshana, Sparshana, and Prashna, so that it can be correlated to inspection and interrogation as well as the palpation part. Then if you go through Susruta Samhita, he has given Shadvida Pariksha, which is 6 types, where 5 Jnanendriyas and Prashna. So auditory, visual, etc. Like that 5 sensory aspects, as well as the 6th one is the Prashna or questioning. Next, in Charaka Samhita, there is a Dashavida Pariksha, which includes Prakriti, Vikriti, Sara, Sattva, Samhanana, Pramana, Satmya, then Ahara Shakti, Vyayama Shakti, and Vayas. So these 10 factors. So these are also known as 10-fold examination. And then there is Ashtasthana Pariksha, which is explained in Yoga Ratnagara and some of the other Lekutrais, which is usually done for prognostic purpose rather than diagnostic purpose. Of course, it includes 8 factors, including Nadi, Mutra, Mala, Jihva, Shabda, Sparsha, Drik, and Agriti. So, of this, Nadi Pariksha is extensively used as a diagnostic tool by various experts. But if we look at it closely, we can see that Ashtasthana Pariksha is usually used for a prognostic purpose. That is why it is being explained as Rogakrandasya Sharirasya Sthanani Ashtau Parikshit. So that if the patient is sick, then you do this Ashtasthana Pariksha, then we will get an idea where in which direction the patient is headed, so that whether the treatment will be easy or the patient is going into a asadhya or uncurable state. So in this series, I have tried to include all of these things, not separately but continuously, so that we will not lose the flow. So I have made Trivida Pariksha as the base, and I have tried to incorporate all the other Pariksha Vidhis into these 3 modalities, because these are the 3 important modalities that we use in a patient examination, that is Darshana, Sparshana, and Prashna. So Darshana is nothing but inspection. So most of the features told in Dashavida Pariksha or Ashtasthana Pariksha, we may use this Darshana modality for examining in the patient. Sparshana includes all those techniques where we palpate or we use other techniques like percussion. So all those things where we have to touch the patient or manipulate the patient's body can be included under the Sparshana aspect. And Prashna is nothing but interrogation or clinical interrogation, what you can call, or history taking. So I have made these Trivida Pariksha as a base for this lecture, and I have tried to incorporate all the other Pariksha Vidhis into this. Dashavidha Pariksha, I am putting it separately as the third section of this lecture series because it is somewhat elaborate. So we need more time to discuss that. So Dashavidha Pariksha will be dealt separately as a third part of this lecture series. So first, let us see Prashna Pariksha because this will be the first thing that we will do in a patient encounter. So whenever we see the patient for the first time, we may start the process of examining with Prashna. Obviously, when we see the patient coming or walking into the clinic, into our clinical setup, we'll use our Darshana aspect as well. But for the ease of understanding, I will start with the Prashna Pariksha. If you go through Susura Samhita, he has extensively dealt with what are the factors that we have to examine or look for in history taking. So, Prashnena cha vijaniyat desham kalam jadim satmyam adanga samutpattim vedana samuchrayam balam andaragnim vada mutra purishana pravrittim apravrittim kala prakarshadim cha visheshat. So this includes factors like desham, so that which place the patient belongs to, and also which Sharira desha is involved can be taken here. Kalam, so the season in which we are examining the patient or season in which the patient has contracted the disease. Jadi is nothing but the race or the religion or whatever the patient belongs to. Satmya is nothing but preferences of the patient. Adanga samutpattim, so that onset of the presenting disease, how and when it appeared in the patient. Vedana samuchrayam, so that the attributes of this Vedana or whatever disease the patient has. Next is Balam Andaragnim, the digestive power of the patient. Vada, Mutra, Purishana, Pravrittim, Apravrittim. So that we ask the patient about his bowel habits, whether he is able to pass flatus properly. What about the micturition? So these are Vega Pravartanas, Vada, Mutra, Purisha, and Kala Prakarshadim, so that the chronicity of the illness. So this Susruta has included in the Prashna Pariksha. For the current practical purposes, we can classify these things into further subheadings like Utthana, that is the onset. The term Utthana has been used for Nidana as well. If you go through the Paryayas or synonyms of Nidana or causative factors, Utthana is also told. But here the term Utthana I have used to mention the onset, then Adhisthana or location where the patient has the symptomatology or difficulty. Then the Samsthana, that is what are the attributes of this presenting symptom. So in modern clinical examination, we have learned about 7 attributes of a symptom, including its onset, site, severity, radiation, aggravating relieving factors, etc. In the same way, here Samsthana includes what are the attributes of this symptom. So what is the Vedana Vishesha, what is the type of difficulty or what is the type of pain the patient has, or whatever the complaint is, what is the characteristic feature of that specific complaint. Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. So this we can examine separately, but here we are going to ask questions about these things, whether there is any particular sound or if there is any difficulty in the touch of that area, then any specific appearances, then taste in the mouth, then any specific abnormalities with the functioning of the olfactory apparatus, like that we can ask. Upashaya and Anupashaya. So here Upashaya can be considered as one of the diagnostic tool as far as the physician is concerned. But we can also ask the patient whether the patient himself has tried some application of medicine or change of posture, or sometimes the patient may himself or herself try something to get relief from the symptom. So that we can ask here. Or maybe there are some influences, external influences like time of the day, where the patient has some relief or the patient aggravates the symptom. So this we can ask here, Upashaya and Anupashaya. And also we can ask about Anubandha Lakshanas or other associated manifestations that are present in the patient. And apart from the characterization of the presenting complaint, we should also probe for specific causative factors or Nidana in the given patient. Rather than going behind the Nidanas explained in the textbook, those things are only for our understanding, or they are only indicators given by Acharyas in the Samhitas. What we have to do is, with those Nidanas available in the Samhitas as indicators, we have to probe in the given patient which all these causative factors the patient has been exposed to. So that is why we have to extensively probe in the patient for ahara, dietary habits, vihara or the other activities. Then we may ask for any kulaja vigara, so that if the patient has this disease as a familial one, then sometimes some of the disorders can lead to another disorder. So we have to probe for any presence of any nidana arthakara rogas. And also we have to take the treatment history, where maybe some sort of ashuddha chikitsa has led to this disease. For example, an improperly administered panchakarma, or because of the some of the drug intakes, the patient can develop the disease. So you have to also probe for ashuddha chikitsa as well. So that is regarding some of the points that we have to cover in the Prashna Pariksha. Regarding the detailed exploration into the Nidana aspect, that will be dealt in the 4th section of this series, where I am going to discuss in detail about what are the finer points that we have to examine in case of eliciting the Nidana in the specific patient. So regarding the Desha, so Susruta has emphasized the importance of Desha, Prashnena Vijaniyat Desham. So in case of Desha, we can classify Desha into Bhumi Desha and Adura Desha. Bhumi Desha means it's something that is geographical, so that the location or the residence of the patient, or the location at which the patient has contracted the disease. Adura Desha is nothing but the patient's body itself. So the Rogi Pariksha is exclusively dealt with regards to Adura Desha. So before going into Adura Desha, I would like to emphasize a small heading regarding the Bhumi Desha. So why this is very important? We know that Ayurveda is a very holistic medical science which gives importance to all these subtle factors, including the patient's residence, the season in which the patient is being treated. So that is why even in Prashna Pariksha, the first thing that might be asked with the patient is regarding the Desha. So that is why we have to include Bhumi Desha Pariksha also under this concept. So in Prashna itself, we can clarify about the Bhumi Desha. Tatra Bhumi Pariksha Adura Parijnana Hedorva Syat Aushadha Parijnana Hedorva. So doing the Bhumi Pariksha will give us an idea about the Prakriti or other factors or Satmya regarding the Adura or the patient, as well as we can understand what type of medicines we have to select, because there is a general consensus among Ayurvedic experts that whichever the place the patient belongs to, the most apt medicine will be from that place itself. So that is why Acharya has told yad desasya yad jandu tasya tad desasya aushadam hidam. So that whichever place the patient belongs to, the patient might be getting more result when we give the medicine from that particular desha itself. So that is why this examination of Bhumi is very important. So what are the questions that we have to ask? That is what Acharya says. I am kasmin Bhumi deshe jadaha samvruddho vyadidova. So here there are three important terms. In which Bhumi desha he took birth, jadaha, samvruddho, in which place he was brought up, and vyadido, in which place he has contracted the disease. And in those, if we get that data, then we have to analyze tasminscha Bhumi deshe manushyanam idam ahara jadam, idam vihara jadam, idam ajara jadam, edavaccha balam, evam vidam sattvam, evam vidam satmyam, evam vido doshaha, bhaktiriyam, ime vyadheha, hidamidam, ahidamidam iti prayoga grahanaya. So that whenever the patient reports a certain desha, then we have to analyze what are the characteristic feature of people in that particular area. For example, what are their food habits, ahara jadam, what are their other activities, vihara jadam, what are their ajaras, or what are the what do you call, ajara can be considered as routines or some specific practices, including cultural practices that are followed by the people pertaining to that particular area. Edavacha balam, we know that in different places people have different body strength. So that is why what is the bala in that specific area, what is the mental power of the people pertaining to that area. That is by Sattvam. Satnam, what are the preferences regarding their dietary habits? And what are the predominant doshas? We even know that certain dosha predominant diseases occur in certain deshas. So that is why what are they? What is the dosha predominance in that area? Bhaktiriyam. So that here bhakti means not only what is something related to the religion, but preferences again. Bhaktiriyam. Ime vyadhaya. What are the diseases that are predominant in that area? Hidam idam, ahidam idam. What are the medicines or diet that are fit for the people coming from that area? This is very important, and only Ayurveda as a medical science gives importance to such a subtle aspect in patient assessment. So we have to do this pariksha whenever we examine the patient. Next, we go into the Adura Desha Pariksha. Adurastu kalu Karya Desha. So Adura Desha is the Desha or the area where the physician has his role as a doctor. So that is why it's a Karya Desha. Tasya Parikshaha. How to examine that and why to examine that. Pramada Jnana Hedur Vasyat. So we need to get an overall idea about the body configuration of the patient, and Bala Dosha Pramana Jnano Hedurva. So that we need to know what is the Rogi Bala, that means the Bala of the patient's body, as well as Dosha Bala or the Bala of the disease. So we need to know that how much strength the body has and how strong the disease is, and based on the permutation and combination we may go for selecting the medicines. For example, if a patient has a strong body and the disease also is very strong or severe, then we may have to go for highly potent medicines. But in case if the disease is strong but the patient's body is weak, then we may not be able to administer very strong medicine, because the patient may not be able to tolerate that such a strong medicine. So that is why various permutation and combination can happen in terms of this Adura Bala and Roga Bala. So that is why we need to carry out Adura Desha Pariksha. And Charaka has explicitly mentioned Dashavida Pariksha for this purpose. So that will be dealt in detail in the third section of this lecture series. So here I am going to concentrate on other aspects of this Adura Desha Pariksha. As I have mentioned earlier in this section itself, that there are various modalities with which we can administer this Rogi Pariksha, including Shadvida Pariksha, Ashtasthana Pariksha, and Dashavida Pariksha. So in this lecture series, I will be dealing with the Shadvida and Ashtasthana Pariksha, which is being incorporated into the Trivida Pariksha, that is Darshana, Sparshana, and Prashna. Okay. So first we will go into Darshana Pariksha. So here throughout this lecture, I have used, most of the times I have used Ayurvedic terminologies or Sanskrit terminologies. Why I did it is because to create some confidence among the practitioners as well as students, that we can also do the patient assessment using all these terminologies available in our Samhitas or classical textbooks. Most of the time in current practice, we are acquainted with using modern terminologies whenever we go for a clinical examination. So we can also do this clinical examination and record keeping using Ayurvedic terminologies. So I have tried to use, most of the time I have tried to use Ayurvedic terminologies for identifying and recording the abnormalities found in the patient. But I would like to warn you that these are not a final list, because the final list always will be very elaborate, so that it cannot be included in a small lecture like this. Again, you can further expand on to the idea what I am going to give you in this lecture series, so that you can go and work yourself and make an elaborate list of all those abnormal what you call terminologies or terminologies that can be used to identify abnormalities in the given patient. So let us dwell into the Darshana Pariksha. So whenever we see the patient for the first time, when the patient is walking into the clinic, or when the patient may be in a bed when we go to the patient, so there are so many factors that initially that we can assess. So these are the important factors that we may have to assess when we encounter the patient for the first time. So first thing is the Akriti that will come into our mind, Gati or how he walks, Twak, skin of the patient, Drik or what about the eyes, Anga Chesha if the patient has any abnormal body movements, Shwasakrama how the patient is breathing, and Anga Pratyanga Pariksha, or the head to toe examination, what we have already learned in modern clinical examination. Let us look into each of these things. First is the Agriti. So if you go through Susruta Samhita, Susruta says that Deha can be classified into three, basically Sthula, Krisha, Madhya. So this again we have seen in modern clinical examination as well. We have seen obesity or asthenic, etc., etc. Body, what you call habit. So here we can classify into Sthula, Krisha, or Madhya. And again, you can look for specific factors like Shosha, or other factors include under the Ashtonindidya like Adidirgha, Adhihraswa, or any other Vaigalyas like Kubja, Kuni, etc. Again, as I have mentioned, these are only indicative, these terminologies. You can populate this list into any number of terminologies that are available in our Samhitas. Even I am going to show you some of the photographs for a better understanding. So, a Stula or a Krisha, Adidirgha or Adhihraswa, Shosha. Such patients, in the first attempt itself, it's very what you call evident that this patient has Shosha and there is Dhaduksha in this patient. So, when we see itself, we can understand that what all treatment modalities we can give to this patient, or which are those are contraindicated in such a patient. This is a Kubja. This patient got it by Sahaja, or it may be a Garbhaja. And here this patient got the Kubja secondary to a disease. So this is a Vyadhijanya and this is a Garbhaja Kubja. Kuni is explained as Nashta Karada. So this Kubja, Kuni, etc. I think we have learned when we studied Dauhrada Vimanana. So that if you don't address the Dauhrada properly, Acharya has told Dauhrada Vimananat, Kubja, Kuni, etc. So such things we can elicit in the patient and we can record it based on Ayurvedic terminologies. Next is the Gadi. So we have to see how the patient walked into our clinic. That will give you an idea about the dosha status of the patient. For example, a fast walking patient may have a Vata Prakriti. A slowly walking patient may have a Kapha Prakriti. Like that. Even abnormalities, the patient can present with the abnormal gaits. So if you go through our Samhitas, we have several terminologies available representing the gait. So Gamane Ashakti, Sarug Gamana, painful gait, Ganja and Pangu. We know that if one limb is paralyzed, it is Ganja, and Pangu is both side, both limbs, or paraplegia. Then there are typical gadis like Chapala, Sama, or Manda, so that fast or medium or slow gait. Then some gadis are explained like Skalida or Gadi Sanga, Vigala Gadi. Again, you can populate this list. So this we can see as a Chapala Gadi. So that this typically indicates a Vada Prakopa. So in modern we call it as an ataxic gait or a wide stepped gait. In Ayurveda we can interpret it as a Chapala Gadi. And this gives you an example about the imbalance between Vada and Kapha, because both are important in movement. This is typically a Skalida Gadi. If you go through Kaphavrata Vyana, there is a term known as Gadi Sangaha. And Skalida Gadi is told in the Samhita as well. So here the patient finds it very difficult to walk as if someone is pulling him back. So this is typically an example of a Kapha predominance in the gait. Next you look at Anga Cheshtas, whether there are any abnormal body movements. So all these things we can get an idea immediately when we see the patient. So look for any Vinama, Ayama, Akshepa, or Kampa. Again, Vinama we know, bending of the body. We have learned in modern like opisthotonus or emprosthotonus. So again, such pathologies are mentioned in our textbook as Ayama, Andarayama, Bahirayama. Again, Akshepaka, involuntary movements. Kampa is tremor. Also look for any Mukha Vakrata as in case of Ardhita. And we can also look for Manya Stamba. Again, this list can be populated further. These are only indicative. So this is a patient with Akshepaka. In modern, they call it hemibalismus. For Akshepaka, if you go through Madhugosha commentary, he says, Hastyaruda Purushaseva Gatram Chalayati. Just like a person who is traveling on an elephant, he moves his body. In the same way, the patient moves his body. So this is typically one among the subtle Akshepakas that we can find in clinical practice. This patient has Gatra Vikshepa. Again, there are differences among clinicians regarding how to name it Ayurvedically. So just as an indicative, I put the name Gatra Vikshepa here. You can even change the name appropriately as per your wish. Vikshepanam cha Gatranam is told in several areas in our textbook. So this is again indicating Vada Prakopa as well as involvement of deeper dhadus. So all these things can be identified in Darshana itself. Here we can see the Mukha Vakrata as in Ardhida. So these are the some of the important things that will come to you immediately when you see the patient. Next, you look at the Twak or the skin. First, you look for the Varna, whether it is Prakriti Varna or Vikriti Varna. And also you can look at the hair distribution, Adiloma, Aloma, Pandutva, and look for any skin lesions in terms of Mandala, Pidaga, Dadru, etc. We can skim through the Kushtadhikara and we can find out lot of terminologies indicative of skin manifestations. Again, Grandhi, Arbuda, Charmakila, etc. can be explored for in the skin examination. So here Adi Krishna and Adi Gaura, Adiloma and Aloma. We can also find skin lesions like Vyanga. Again, Shweda Mandalas. So typically a mandala lesion will be like this. This we know in modern it's Tinea versicolor. But when we come to Ayurveda, we can again describe this in terms of Ayurvedic terminologies. So that this indicates a Kapha Pradhana skin lesion. Grandhi, Raukshada of the Tuk. Again, if you go through Kushtadhikara, Matsya Shakalavati is told in case of Ega Kushta. You may compare that also here. But it typically indicates Tuk Rukshada, especially indicating the involvement of Rasa Dhatu, Udarda, Rakta Kotha. So like this, you can again populate this list for how much you want depending upon the availability in our Samhitas. These are only indicative. Next is regarding the Drik. So Drik comes under, again Agriti and Drik comes under the Ashtasthana Pariksha. So I am not going to deal with Ashtasthana Pariksha separately. As I have told earlier, I have incorporated this Ashtasthana factors explained in the Ashtasthana into this Darshanadi Parikshas. So next is the Drik. Look at the eyes. It will be Ruksha, Dhumra, Raudra, Chala, Andarjwala in case of Vadarogi, Dibadveshi, Santava, Pidam in case of Pittarogi, Jalardram, Jodhishahinam, Snigdam, Manda in Kafarogi, Shamavarna, Nirbhugna, Raudra, Raktavarna in case of Tridosha. Let us look at some practical aspect. So here you can see an Aruna tinge in the eyes. So this typically indicates a Vada Prakopa. Here you can see a reddish discoloration, a Pitta Prakopa. Here you can see reddish as well as it is Avila. It's excessively teary. So here this typically indicates a Pitta Kapha Prakopa. So like this, by seeing the typical presentation, we can infer doshas. This is a patient with the Pandu. So you can see the yellowish discoloration, Pida Varnada. And this is a patient with the Pandu, so that Shweda Varnada. So this is typically indicative of Pandu. Again, this is a indicative of Tridosha Prakopa. You can see this eye is totally gone. So this typically indicates Tridosha Prakopa. Next, after the Drik, we can go into the Shwasakrama or the pattern of breathing in the patient. Again, if we skim through the Samhitas, we get lot of terminologies pertaining to the Shwasakrama, like Tivra Vega Shwasa, Shwasa Kricharada, Chinna Shwasa, Urdhva Shwasa, Mahashwasa. These are typical breathing patterns as we find in case of modern medicine, ataxic breathing, central neurological hyperventilation. In the similar way, Ayurveda has explained certain breathing patterns. That is why these patterns are explained by Acharyas as terminal, so that these when found fully manifested indicates asadhya lakshana. We know that most of the times ataxic breathing, Kussmaul's respiration, or central neurological hyperventilation, etc., happens when the patient has some involvement of the central nervous system, and usually these are found in case of terminal stages of the illness. So that is why these three are explained as terminal stage illness itself in our textbook. So you look for any of these patterns, alpe cheshtide shwasam, so that whenever the patient exerts for a few minutes, the patient gets difficulty in breathing. Dina prashwasidam, so that the patient breathes with much difficulty. Sagurguraga shwasa, wheezing, which we can hear outside. So these terminologies are available in the Samhita. So whenever it is available in the patient, you can record it accordingly. And next we go for a general survey. So after the Agriti, then the skin, then the Drik, then the Shwasakrama, then and the Gadi. Next we go into the Anga Pratyanga Pariksha. Just like the head to toe examination explained in the modern medicine, we can also go for a general survey of the patient from head to toe, starting from the Shira, Vadana, Asya, Jihva, Griva, Manya Pradesha, Ura, Udara, Hasta, Pada, Prishta, Yoni, Guda, Vrishana, and Mehana. So including the genitals. So these areas we can go for a general survey. So I'll give some illustrations. So here you can see a Granthi in the Shira Pradesha. In this Shiras you can see that there is loss of hair, which you can call it as Indralupta, or you can call it as Khalite as well. Here you can see Ardida on the face. So this is Vadana Pariksha. And in the Asya, again, you can look into, ask the patient what sort of taste the patient has in his or her mouth. So Kashaya and Madura indicates Vada, Kadu, Pitta, Madura and Amla, Kabha. Then if the patient feels as Gridapurna, as if coated with a greasy substance, then it indicates Ajirna or indigestion. Kashaya Rasa in case of Agni Mandya. And also you can inspect the Asya for different dosha predominances. Here you can see typically indicates Vada Pitta Prakopa. Here you can see it's a Pitta Kapha Prakopa. You can see whitish as well as reddish discoloration. So this is typically a Pitta Kapha Prakopa. Here you can see that there is some sort of extra growth here. So this has been explained as Danda Puppuda, but here the dosha predominance can be considered as either Vada Kapha or Pitta Kapha depending upon the other presentations of the patient, but here we can take it as Vada Kapha. So like that you can inspect the Asya as well and identify the dosha predominance. Next is regarding the Jihva. Again, this Jihva Pariksha is explained in as a part of Ashtasthana Pariksha as well. So we can look for Shidha, Garasparsha, Spudida in case of Vada predominance, Rakta and Shyama in Pitta predominance, Shubhra, Adipichila in Kapha predominance, Krishna, Sakantaga, Shushka in case of Sannipada. So that you just go and you can see the tongue and identify these factors, and from which you can infer the dosha predominance. So here this is a patient with malignancy. So basically this is a tridosha dushti with pitta kapha predominance. Here again you can see that this is a glossy tongue. Again it indicates pitta predominance. This typically is a patient with candidiasis, but in Ayurvedic purview we can see that it is kapha predominant. So like this you can examine the jihva as well. And after Vadana, Asya and Jihva, we go down. So look for the Griva Pradesha, or where we can see this as a Galaganda, there is a thyroid swelling, or even you can get multiple lymphadenopathies which are interpreted as Gandamala in Ayurveda. So this is a patient with Gandamala. Next you go into the hand, upper limbs. There are so many abnormalities that can happen. This is just for illustration. This is a Hasta Sankocha. Again, you can look for any Vakrada, Anguli Vakrada as explained in Vadarakta. Next is the Urus. This is typically a patient with a psoriatic lesion in the chest. We have studied in case of Sigma that Sigmam Prayo Urasi. So usually Sigma is predominantly found in the Ura Pradesha. So this is typically a patient with a Sigma in the Ura Pradesha. So you just look at the chest as well. Udara, this is a typical example of Jalodara or ascites. You can see the Raji, etc. So this is typically a Jalodara. And next is the Prishta Pradesha. Here you can see a slight scoliosis. But this patient presented with the Kadi Graha. Again, you can inspect the area for abnormalities and record in the Ayurvedic way. This is the genitals. Again, you can see the Vriddhi, which is explained in Ayurveda. So this is nothing but a hernia which is coming into the scrotum. So this is explained as Vriddhi in Ayurveda. So that is regarding the overall survey. Again, you can go down from the genitals to the lower part of the body. This is typically a patient with the Kroshtuga Shirsha. So we can see Srigala Mastagavat is told. So we can see the resemblance. These are some areas where Ayurveda has used the example of analogy to identify typical diseases. And again, you can see Kroshtuga Shirsha has Rakta involvement. And you can see that a reddish tinge on this. So obviously there is a Vada and Rakta involvement. So this is Kroshtuga Shirsha. And again, this is a congenital anomaly. But again, coming to the Pada, we can record abnormalities like this Pada Vakrada. So like that, after an overall survey from the Shira to the Pada, next is regarding the Gandha Pariksha. So that in Gandha Pariksha, we can mainly see three important things. One is the Sharira Gandha. Suppose there is any ulcer or any other lesions, the Vrana Gandha and Malamutradi Gandha. So if there is an abnormal smell of this stool or urine, that also you can examine. Next is regarding the Shabda Pariksha, which is again told in Ashtasthana Pariksha, so where he says that Guru Swara indicates Sleshmala Prakriti, Spuda Vaktada indicates Pitta Prakriti, and Ubabhyam Rahita, if both of these features are not there, then it is Vadaja. Again, in Shabda Pariksha, you can go for assessing looking for abnormalities explained in our Samhitas like Moga, Minmina, Gadgada, which is explained in Vada Vyadi, and also look for Karkasha, Parushya, etc. And then there are several other abnormalities explained in the context of Swara Veda. All those factors you can assess in Shabda Pariksha. Next is regarding the Mutra Pariksha. We will look for its color and consistency. So Pandura, Neela, Ruksha indicates Vada Pragova, Safena, Snigdha, Palvala Varitulya in Kapha predominance, Rakta Varna, Pidaruna, Taila Sama in Pitta predominance, Krishna in Sannipadaja. And then there is a separate technique for identifying the prognosis in the patient in the form of Taila Bindu Pariksha. I'm not going into detail regarding Taila Bindu Pariksha in this session because it's very elaborate and it needs a separate section for discussing. But just to give you an idea that there is a specific time and type of vessel where the urine has to be collected, and after that a drop of oil is dropped into the urine, and depending upon its dynamics, whether it sinks or floats, and even if it floats, in which direction it's going, depending upon that, the prognosis is determined in the given patient. There are several studies which try to validate the importance of Taila Bindu Pariksha, and there are several physicians who are using this Taila Bindu Pariksha in their practice. Because of the extensive nature of this topic, I'm only mentioning it briefly in this lecture. Next is the Mala Pariksha. Again, it's explained in case of Ashtasthana Pariksha. There are certain features which indicate certain dosha predominances. So Dridada, Shushka, Trudita, Fenila and Ruksha indicates Vada predominance. Pida, Rakta Varna indicates Pitta predominance. Shukla and Ama, it indicates Kapha. Kabisha, Vada Kapha. Baddha, Trudita, Pida Shama, Pitta Vada. Ishat Sandra, Pichila, Pida Shama, Sleshma Pitta. Shamam, Trudita, Pida, Baddha Shveda, Tridoshaja. Pindida and Shushka, Atyagni. Dravigrada, Mandagni. So these things again we can we can do two things in a clinical perspective. One is we can ask the patient to show us the mala if possible, whenever it is feasible, so that a direct inspection will always give you a better idea. Or else you can ask the patient in the history taking itself how the stools are. For example, in this Pindita and Shushka and Dravigrita, we get routinely in practice, especially in patients with the Grahani dosha, etc. They may say that the patient has alternating Drava and Shushka malas. So these things are very important as far as patient assessment is concerned, and we can do it in two ways. One is the direct assessment, or we can ask the patient to assess and report back. Next is regarding the Sparsha Pariksha. So we have already finished Prashna and Darshana. Next is regarding Sparsha. So this component necessitates touching the patient's body part. So basically this Sparsha is again one of the component in the Ashtasthana Pariksha. And in Sparshana, there are a lot of things that we can do in the patient. Basically, Shita Sparsha indicates a Vada Rogi, Ushna Sparsha indicates a Pitta Rogi, and Ardra indicates a Kapha Rogi. But we should not forget the context of Prakriti in this examination, because even in Prakriti, a Pitta Prakriti patient will be slightly warmer compared to a Kapha or Vada Prakriti individual. So whenever we examine the patient, we always have to consider the context of Prakriti while determining the dosha predominance. If you go into detail regarding the Sparsha, there are several modalities that we can look into regarding Sparsha Pariksha. First is in the skin, Tvak. You look for whether it is Shida, Ushna, Snigdha, Ruksha, Slakshna, Khara, Mrudu or Kadhina. Depending upon the availability of these parameters, we can assess the dosha. For example, Shida, Ruksha indicates Vada, but Shida and Snigdha may indicate Kapha. Ushna may indicate Pitta. So in the same way, again Kadhina may indicate Kapha. So Vada Kapha as well in Kadhina. So in such a way, we can identify the dosha predominance. And next thing that you can look in Sparsha Pariksha is Sharira Desha Spandana. So there are various areas in the body where we can get pulsations. Even in when dealing with Arishta Lakshana or signs of bad prognosis, we have references in our text regarding presence or absence of abnormal pulsation. So that whenever a pulsation is present in an area where it is not available, then also it is bad prognosis. And whenever there is a absence of pulsation in an area where there is supposed to be a normal pulsation, then that also is a bad prognostic sign. This reference is available in the context of Arishta Lakshanas or bad prognostic signs. So in the same way, you can look for Sharira Desha Spandana. And in case of patients who presents with a particular mass or Granthi, then you can also try to palpate it. So that is Sparshobalabhya, Granthi or Pedagas. Then you can also assess tenderness in that area, that is Sparshane Ruk, or it's again explained in terms of Sparsha Sahatvam. So these factors you can assess in case of Sparsha Pariksha. And one of the other important modality that we do in case of Sparsha Pariksha is Nadi Pariksha. So Nadi Pariksha is again a very elaborate area, and there are several physicians who use Nadi Pariksha for their routine clinical practice as a part of dosha assessment, as well as assessing the functioning of the internal organs. I am not going into detail about Nadi Pariksha because it has to be dealt by an expert, which I am not in case of Nadi Pariksha. And Nadi Pariksha needs extensive training under an expert for years together to imbibe the art of Nadi Pariksha. So that is why there are several physicians that those who use this Nadi Pariksha in their regular practice. But here I am just giving some indications, general indications regarding what are the parameters usually looked into. So regarding the Gati of the Nadi, we can classify it as Manda, Madhya or Tikshna. This we can take into comparison regarding the pulse rate. That is Manda, that is low, slow rate, or you can call it as bradycardia. Madhyama is nothing but normal that we get, and Tikshna whether it is in case of tachycardia. But these are not the only factors that are used in Nadi Pariksha. There are more factors, subtle factors that can be looked into in case of Nadi Pariksha rather than only rate of the Nadi. So typical patterns of this Gati are explained in the textbook in terms of Sarpa and Jalauga in case of Vada, Kaga, Lavaga, Manduga and Chapala in Pitta, Rajahamsa, Paravada, Mayura, Kapoda, Kukkuda in case of Kapha, Muhu Sarpa, Muhu Bheka in case of Vada Pitta, Sarpa Hamsa Gadi in Vada Kapha, Hari Hamsa Gadi in Pitta Kapha, Kashta Kuttanavat Adivega or Stitva in case of Sannipada. So all these things indicates certain things indicates prakriti and certain things indicates vikriti. So again, this has to be dealt in detail by an expert. So I am just mentioning it briefly in this context. And to end with the Rogi Pariksha, Shadvida Pariksha is another important factor that important modality that has been put to use by Susruta, especially in case of Vrana, examining Vrana or an ulcer. So here, apart from the Prashna, he has used other sensory modalities to assess features pertaining to a Vrana. So that is why typical features indicates typical dosha predominance. So Sravana or the sound Sashabdafena Raktagamana in case of Vada predominance, and in Pitta and Kapha he has not mentioned any particular sound. In case of touch or tuk, then Parushya, Raukshya in case of Vada, Ushnada in case of Pitta, and Snigdha Paichila in case of Kapha. In case of Chakshu or visual inspection, Basma Kabodasti Varna in case of Vada, Neela Pida Varna in case of Pitta, and Shveda Varna in case of Kapha. In case of smell or Grana Pariksha, Kadu Gandha, Laja Gandha in case of Vada, Tikshna Adasi Gandha in case of Pitta, Visra Gandha in case of Kapha. In case of taste, Kashaya Rasa in case of Vada, Kadu Amla Rasa in case of Pitta, and Madhurya in case of Kapha. But this Rasa Pariksha is very difficult in terms of examining the Vrana, but we can use the tool of Anumana like Pipiliga Sarpana indicating Madhurya Rasa, etc. And also these rasas when available as reported by the patient, so that if the patient reports such rasas in his mouth, then it indicates typical dosha predominance. And in prashna, in questioning, he will ask specific Vrana specific questions like Toda, Beda, Chedana, different types of pain in case of Vada, Osha, Chosha, Paritaha, different types of burning sensation in case of Pitta, and Kandu, itching, and Gurutta or heaviness in case of Kapha. So this is a Shadvida modality explained by Susruta. So that ends the modalities that we can use for Rogi Pariksha. The left out modality is the Dashavida Pariksha, which will be dealt in detail in the section 3 of this lecture series because it needs an elaborate explanation.